Hello, 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 and welcome to Something About Rhyme. This is Series 2, Episode 2. So what are you saying, son? What are you saying, blood?
Is it?
Yeah, this season is... I've got a ghost. That voice you've just heard wasn't mine. It was that of a friend's. It's my longtime friend and collaborator, best man to be, is Theo Marlow. Tell him how you is, player.
Oh, yeah. I'm good. I'm well. Thanks for the sort of, I guess, British battle rap style intro where you don't introduce yourself.
Yeah.
The host introduces, but then it would be nice in British battle rap if they did that. Like, tell them how you is.
Tell him how you are.
Instead of
I'm well. I'm all right.
I'm doing well.
I'm doing great. And everyone's like, yes.
Yeah, just got a new job. Yeah.
I'm on cloud nine, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Been watching a lot, been reading a lot. It's been good, man. You know. No, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. Only took you one whole season and 2 episodes, but
Yeah.
here I.
I had Frankie on before you, and
Yeah.
also Robbie Williams. And one of them's an international star with £1 million, and the other one is Frankie Fraser.
Frankie Fraser, because Robbie was
Robbie
the
is
one
the
you were
other,
talking about.
yeah, because
obviously,
he's the star. Do you remember?
You've done a double rug pull there. It's great, and that's our first multi of the whole thing. Double
rug pull.
kind of stretch, but yeah.
That's a pretty impressive mic there, mate.
Oh, thank you.
It looks
Mate.
like you're kinda
yours
showing
is
off a
yours
bit.
is equally as impressive.
Well, yeah,
for the video.
we can all gloat because I've got this little number, this fluffy little friend.
So for the purposes of the audio, that is it. You've got a sort of what's known as I guess a dead cat wind guard mic.
Yeah, which you
is
need
bigger
when you're
than
indoors.
bigger than your phone.
Yeah. So I first of all I've got to do the quiz from last time. I'm very organised.
Oh, I didn't do it. So let's see how many I can get off the cuff, which will be none.
All right, let's see. I'll give you like a time limit of about 4 seconds.
I didn't hear it. So was this in the last episode?
No, this wasn't on the Robbie one. This was on the one before that. This is on the Frankie one.
Oh, maybe I did hear it then.
Well,
but
let's see then. Let's see how well you do. I'll give you time
I think
limit.
I struggled.
If
I remember struggling.
If you get an immediate one, then we'll get it. And if not, I'll just move on. Right, Carrie Fisher, toy. What was it? Out of time. Action figure.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah.
All right, Cerebellum, band.
10, 11. Well, I don't know.
Evanescence. But
Evanescence, great.
I got to say, the person who won this week bamboozled me because she put S Club 7.
Brilliant.
And that is not only a fit, but it might be better. Cerebellum and S Club 7. Oh, it's not better, but it's more. It's funnier. It's a funnier rhyme.
Now we could probably get into this later anyway.
Yeah.
But I will, because there was one thing that we were contesting each other on, which was, and I think this applies in this one, which is I think the club is too emphasised.
Right, hold on to that.
We'll
I'm
talk
going
about
to
it
go
later.
through, and then we'll
good-
see.
I
All
can
right,
note of it.
co-sponsor, team. What's that?
Don't know.
Globetrotters.
Globetrot. Oh right.
All right.
Well, they're not. Then are they a team? I thought they were like a kind of almost like a performative act. Aren't
Yeah,
they?
but it's like that's the name of their like fake team.
Yeah,
It was like a cheeky clue.
I'm just going to call you up on all of the ones I don't get immediately.
How long are you going to be, mate?
Yeah.
We could do this all day. What's a goblin then? All right, sausage party, fold.
Origami.
Hey, there he is. Roger Rabbit and its clothing. Bomber jacket.
Bomber jacket. Okay.
That was Bleezy got that. Right, unhappy husband and wife.
Something married.
Yeah, just married. You know,
Just
on the
married,
back of the
okay.
things.
Yeah.
Sugar Baron, celebrity. Woody Allen.
Nice.
All right, toil and trouble, wrestling,
I don't know anything about wrestling.
Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble.
I don't know.
Nice.
I'm not very. Yeah, I never got into wrestling. Joint Major. I'm just going to go through the rest. Joint Major, Reckless Driver. That was Boy Racer. Babbling Brook. That was one of the boys. And the clue was Master Chef. It was Amateur Cook. That's what they always say. 12 amateur cooks. Natalie Portman, Holiday. That was Travel Insurance. Now that was a bit of a contested one as well because some people say travel like insurance, like how you say jury or fury.
Yeah.
But I've always said travel insurance, like shore.
Sure.
But some people got it, some people didn't. I'm sure it's one of those.
Also, I would have got all of these now that you're racing through them. But I definitely would have got them if I had a second to think. Definitely.
Well, okay. You can have the next one then. Tax avoider, worry.
Worry.
Paranoia.
Paranoia. Yeah. Well.
You didn't give me enough time. I didn't.
That was a clue. Yeah. 2 seconds later.
All right. Then it's medical book. Your area. That was neck of the woods. Then it was pick your poison. Shame. That was disappointment. But I'll accept disappointing because I know some people like Sarah Milliken says disappointing, and so disappointing. So you can have that. And then the last one was witching hour, and it was hot and drink. There were 2 separate clues. Any ideas on that, Theo? Witching hour, and it was hot.
Witching hour. Sorry, what was it? Hot.
One clue is hot, and one clue is drink. They're very difficult clues, really, or very obscure. Not obscure, sorry, but like vague.
Is the first one something to do with a shower in?
It's not. It's not.
No, go on, say it, because people are going to get bored otherwise. If I'm just thinking about it.
Sorry, it was chili powder and whiskey sour.
Lovely, very nice. Yeah,
Right
hot.
then? Yeah, well
chili
done.
powder is hot. Yeah, well
yeah.
Whiskey sour is famously a drink as well.
So there you go.
So,
with those clues.
With those exact clues, you got. So who got 15 out of 15?
Oh yeah, so it was 16 out of 16. In fact, it was Amy Schofield, who's played it basically every week and has got 15 out of 16 basically every time. And this is the first time she's got 16 out of 16. So well done, Amy. You've won. Congratulations. You can have a biscuit or something. That's what you're at, a biscuit. Hobnob. No, what are they called? We've got those chocolate digestives that have got a marmalade interior, so maybe I'll send you one of those in the post. Why did I say interior? What an odd word to use in that. Interior.
Are you hungover today?
I'm very hungover. If you're watching this on the video, that will be evident from my face and hair.
I'm slightly hungover as well, which is the good kind of level for me. Like, I know that you get very hungover, and that's the perfect level for you, is to just be as hungover as you possibly can, will make you as giddy and as excitable.
I haven't actually mentioned that on this, but yeah, that is a thing about me that people might not know. Why should they? That I really like a hangover. And I always have, and it sounds like one of those things that people say. It sounds like when, I think there's a Peter Kay bit where he's talking about when it starts raining and all the kids get sent inside, and there's one kid with like his jumper off and his sleeves rolled up, like, I like the rain. I like the rain. Yes, I do. And it's like, no, you fucking don't. That's just, you're trying to make it your thing. And it seems like I'm trying to make hangovers like my thing. Like, I like a hangover. Yeah, I do. I think they're pleasant. But I do. I find that my brain works in a better way and it's more creative and stuff.
Because you're not worrying about stuff. You're very kind of, a bit like being drunk, I suppose, but even kind of more mellowed out, right? You're just at a point where basically, all of the potential, headache or whatever has gone away. As long as you get to that point, and then you kind of you're just mellowed out and you can just easily focus and be happy on
and you kind of write off the day on a hangover. So I think that lack of like pressure to do anything.
So as long as you have a day to write off,
then
you're okay.
And I kept that up when we worked together at the Hook. If I was hungover there, then I just write off the day. And to this day, I don't know why I got made redundant.
Yeah,
but
I don't either. Yeah,
it can't be anything to do with that. Anyway, right. So I've got Theo Marlow on today. Good buddy that he is. And I guess I just wanted to get you on, mate, to just have a general conversation. I suppose we don't often, like, we're creatives and mates, and so we hang out and we talk and we make stuff all the time. But it's not often that we analyse what it is that we're doing, because why would we? Because we're too busy doing it. But we just
mostly fawn over ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
God, there's no. We mostly say there's no need to analyse.
Why mess with perfection? We say, don't we?
Yeah,
that's our little catchphrase.
Yeah.
But I wanted to like take an hour or whatever, however long this takes, to sort of look over how we write, how we've developed in the time that we've been doing it. How we got to this point, and just have a look at the journey a little bit, if that's not too twatty a thing to do.
I don't think so.
So let's do that.
Let's do it.
First of all, cast your mind back to 2012, or even earlier, when we were just writing together in our bedrooms or my little downstairs computer room, and we were writing all that stuff that now we look back on in both fondness and disdain. Things like I know you remember this because we talk about it all the time. But for example, that track that we did, Litterbugs.
Oh yeah,
which was I think the hook was like, "Yo, we litterbugs. All these weeds on the streets taking hella drugs.
Yeah, much
Throw that
worse
shit
than
on
the
the floor
pussy
because
out
we're
killer
litterbugs."
thugs. Yeah,
That's it, killer thugs. There's your rhymes.
yeah.
Throw that shit on the floor because we litter bugs.
Those were I think that was probably one of the first like iterations of multis. That was when we first started getting it. Because if we rewind even a little bit further, this all kind of the big bang, so to speak, of Shuffle T and Marlo was us just driving around in my old R-Edge Ford Fiesta Fun.
Ooh,
And one day Radio 1 was on like fairly loud because we're middle class white kids. Like Radio 1 was not fairly loud. I think it was probably Greg James. And so you like just turned up the volume right and we're just like freestyle, and that was like the moment from then on when we just started freestyling. And
Isn't
I think
freestyle such a cool word for what we were doing?
Oh god, yeah. Yeah. It's giving way too much praise to it. And I don't think we got multis at first, did we? I think there was something.
I remember my first time. We sort of had this moment a bit later on, but I remember going around and rapping, and I remember one time rhyming hospital with responsible and being really excited because I'd sort of like I realised that was better than rhyming cat with Matt and Dat and Jat. And even though that's not like a multi as such, responsible, but even though it's like not what we sort of consider a multi in the same sense, it still was like a bit more complex. And I remember thinking that was like a moment. And you said, or one of us said like rhymed alphabet and household pet.
I was just thinking of that example as well.
Were you?
So clearly that was one that stayed with us as well.
Yeah. Was that you or me?
Yeah, I think that was you. I definitely wasn't that technical. But as to rhyme alphabet with household pet back then, it was still a kind of like the one example I remember like we always sort of went back to was like rhyming "There Will Be Blood" with "Fight Club."
Yeah.
And it's just
that was it. Try to fuck with us and there will be blood. We'll fuck you up like Tyler Durden from Fight Club.
From Fight Club. and it's interesting because like literally, ours, as I'm sure every like other rapper, poet, whoever that gets into multis eventually, or it kind of follows the trajectory of actual hip hop's history and rap, because that started very non, as we would consider these days, technical. The first completely mainstream act to widely publicized was the Sugar Hill Gang one, right? Which would now kind of look back and be like, it's so dated. Rapper's Delight. But that is the prime example of like just single syllable rhyming.
That's how most people start.
I can't imagine that most people that get into rap who would obviously have it quite early in like either the latter end of their formative years, as in our case, or just whatever, but that they would just get it straight away.
I think
unless I don't know, maybe nowadays it'd be different because they especially with like things like battle rap where basically multis are essentially a given.
Well, with such excellent tools available, such as the Advanced Rhyming Dictionary, I think most people have got you'd be fools not to know.
They've got the tools available now, haven't they? Before, pre 2019.
The advanced. That's how people measure it now. Sugar Hill Gang, the Advanced Rhyming Dictionary now.
Yeah. Exactly. Now everyone gets it straight.
I think, and we definitely had that realization like a bit, like a year or two, I'd say. We started doing them inconsistently after about a year, and then we came up with things that we had that thing that we did, which was back and forth over the Flaming Lips instrumental.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that was like the first one of them? I suppose actually that was towards the latter a time of like us writing together and finally figuring it out. Before that was Litterbugs and stuff like that, and then I remember doing something called As the Crow Flies.
Oh yeah.
And I know
no lives,
yeah,
get it there where my flow dies and the dough die.
Yeah.
But that was it. That was getting like kind of.
That was starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
As the crow flies, these low lives, get it big while my flow dies.
Yeah. And then I literally did a freestyle or like a written freestyle, if you want to call it that, over which was called Toast to Syllables. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. And the whole thing was on that scheme of
because we were sort of obsessed with it. We were obsessed with the idea.
Exactly. That was the point where we realised, oh shit, there actually is like a
bit of a formula.
There's actually a formula to this,
do you know what?
That's what separates, good rap from bad rap, at least in our book.
In our book, and like what's weird is that something I wrote at that time, I still remember now, and I can't remember songs that I've listened to a million times, but I can remember this one thing. And now it was this. You'll probably remember this, right? And I won't do it as quick as it was intended to be because I was obsessed with being like, I'm going to be one of those fast rappers so that I can put up a YouTube video that says, white boy raps impossibly fast, because I thought that was the definition of impressive. So,
and then Watsky beat you to it anyway.
Yeah, that bastard.
Yeah.
And it was you're bringing a villain not ready to learn, not ready to burn, ready to learn, never develop the place to fit in the cerebellum, the scary men in the fairy tale, severely pale but barely real, rarely fail but nearly fell, almost gave in to the Daily Mail readers. I don't know why.
Yeah. Political. See, it's good.
Almost gave in to the Daily Mail readers when they said he fell. I'm old school, I write with a feather quill. You'll never compare to real lyricists. Lyrical Dennis the Menace has given you tinnitus, never pretend you're a friend of this. Nemesis.
Yeah. There was a... You can just smell the Eminem influence off of all of this. It's like the enjambment.
There's a lyric in there that says, Eminem enemies offending me. You feeling me?
Yeah. That I remember that, and it's still sick now. I remember thinking like how good that was at the time, and just being like, yes, this is how we should write.
It was so weird.
It's just about being kind of like technical, and I genuinely still to this day enjoy those kind of tracks where there's not. Although those not even just tracks, but like just passages or freestyles, whatever, where it actually doesn't have much
like the content isn't that important.
The content actually, or the points that are being made, like it might just seem completely random, basically. But it's just someone clearly having fun with what they're writing, and having. There's a track Lupe Fiasco does Mural. And he's basically the whole idea. It's like 8 minutes of him just bars. Yeah, but it's just bars for the sake of bars, and it's just really like lovely multis, basically painting like a lyrical mural, right? So like a kind of as you would an actual mural. Yeah. So he's got like the ribbon in the sky is the ribbon that I drop, dribble in the eye across the prism of a clock, but then he'll like maybe drop it for the, and he goes, that lacks meaning. Right. But racks up stacks of fat reading, then catch thief, like kind of like that stuff. And I just felt like that. I just enjoy that. I just enjoy like stuff where people are just clearly having fun. Like you don't have to read too much into like what actually, like maybe certain bits, stand out as like being a point, saying something about that person's history, or
it's the same as anything, isn't it? I mean, it's the same as like enjoying a film like John Wick or Mission Impossible or Transformers. For what it is, and then watching, high cinema or like Midsummer.
Ken Loach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, or like, it's like anything. All things like junk food and high quality restaurant food. Like, things happen for the sake of it. Things get made for the sake of it because they're just good in a raw way, a sort of unapologetic good thing. It just sounds sick, and that's all there is to it, and there's no shame in enjoying that. And then you have the other side, of like conscious rap and Loki and Akala and people like that who put political ideologies into it, and then you've got people who just talk about what they want to say and how they feel, and you got that, and like they've all the whole gamut is really important, and like I guess the best version or like certainly how I feel these days, I'm sure you feel similarly, is like being able to meld all those things, say something that's like important or has a message or is personal to you, whilst keeping it technical, not to the point where it overpowers the other thing, but just like a perfect melding of those things.
100%. And Akala and Loki being really good examples of that, like incredible writers actually having like a point to say something, to talk about, and if you can keep it, consistent with like incredible, with just very kind of technical.
Exactly. You've got Loki doing all these
great.
these political messages, but also he's doing things like the alphabet aerobics version, the murder of the alphabet, and he's going and that's just like a bit of fun. And it's people who can mix those things.
Same with people like
Holy Grail.
Do you remember Diabolic?
Yeah, I do remember him.
Diabolic as well. I remember, it's a complete side note, but I remember he had like a beef recently with like Thesaurus and Ilmac. I swear.
Really?
I swear there was something about that I saw on Twitter. Anyway, complete side note. But yeah, like he's another example, I suppose, of that kind of writing around.
So it's but it took us a while to realise that, I think, and at that time we were more focused on being as technical as possible, pretty actively disliking people who didn't, do multis or didn't provide us with what we felt like was the technical aspect that it needed.
Yeah.
And realising a couple of years later that maybe we've been a bit quick to judge.
To judge that when you've got,
Especially not even being that good ourselves at that time.
Exactly.
But yeah, but that was an important turning point, I think. But that happened a bit later, and I think I think our work was kind of we were on similar levels. I always genuinely thought that you were ahead of me when it came to writing.
I thought that too. Yeah.
No fucking question. I always thought that you were like a step above me, and I was sort of like trying to keep up with you because, and I think the reason for that was, you wrote a lot more than me for one, and you were able to remember and deliver it with so much more confidence, and I felt like there was a lot of there were just more elements of quality that I recognised in yours than I recognised in mine. Mine were always like nearly but not quite in terms of the complexity, and I never knew how to write to a punchline and all this kind of thing. So I felt for a long while.
I thought that's funny because I thought you, first of all, were the one to grasp that concept much earlier than I was. And if you look at the battle rap history, especially, like I think they're pretty. But also, like, it's just funny how we probably feel that
about each other,
about each other, just purely because like I've always kind of felt like that, like that you would, the steps ahead that I've kind of wanted to like, replicate or do something.
That's so interesting to me because I'm not saying this for the sake of it. I'm sure you believe me because why would I? I genuinely feel like that, and I think that my writing was progressed all of a sudden. Like I had a bit of a moment when I was asked to come and battle on Don't Flop after the freestyle thing. So when I was asked to come and battle on Don't Flop, like obviously there was still a long way to go in terms of the writing, but I felt like at that time when I knew I was going to be on stage in front of people, my writing at that point started to develop punchlines, and at that point started to develop a bit of like structure. Which before it was massively lacking, and I never actually finished a track when we were writing together. If I was writing by myself, then I would never finish something. It would always get like 3/4 through, and then it would fizzle out. And this was the first time I'd finished something.
That's interesting because and I definitely think you got that concept much quicker, and also in terms of structuring to like an even number of bars. So you do 4 bars, 8 bars, whatever. Which I think it took me a lot longer to get, but then I did eventually learn that lesson when we were writing 2 on 2s together, and you'd be structuring things a lot more to that. It's like, okay, well, we start with the punchline, the 4th line, with things that seem really, really basic.
Yeah, rudimentary lessons now.
Rudimentary lessons, but like in my Cracker battle, in the Josh Fox battle, the first battle I did, like all of those, I was just writing multis for the sake of it and just kind of going, and I wasn't measuring the number that I was. Maybe I was subconsciously. I can't actually. It's been a while since I watched them, but I think. And then also on the day, I'd just kind of rush through them. But it wouldn't ever be to like a punchline, like per se, right? It would be.
I know what you mean.
It would start with the last line and then go back. I would just be writing, multis kind of around it.
Yeah,
and trying to make as many funny little jabs in there as possible.
I think that's what it was. It was sort of like starting on a scheme and that felt rich, like a rhyme scheme that felt like it had a lot to it that you could go on for a while, and then just going, how far can I go with this? How far can I like pull this until it's like, really long? Because again, it was one of those things that I think we both felt that like the length of a rhyme scheme indicated how impressive it was. Like how long you could do it was a level of how impressive it was to you. He kept that going for a whole round, which is what you did in the Josh Fox battle. You had the third round, which was all on the same rhyme scheme, the George and the Dragon, and Dor da da da.
But then, funnily enough, which you helped write, if you
did
remember
I?
Correctly. Yeah, you helped. Like we kind of. I mean, I mostly wrote it, but you were kind of like we lived together. Do you remember? In Vauxhall at the time, so you were kind of throwing in ideas like all to that. So it was But it's funny because even with that round, the length of it, we've probably gone in like 2-on-2s where we go to like 5-6 minutes with rounds sometimes. We've probably gone like longer on the same scheme together.
Yeah. But
for that exact reason you're talking about, which is like, it's more impressive like the longer you can,
But I think where it differs now a bit is like back then when we were doing that, it was like it didn't matter where it started and that kind of thing. It would just be like, let's go for it. But now I think when we do long schemes, it's only because we feel like we have it builds momentum in those and we always have it always centers around an idea or a line that we started with that was important. Like, it would always start with, I can't remember what that Zen and dialect...
I was literally just pulling it up now, the lyrics, because someone's put it on Genius, right?
But so, what was it? What was the last...
it was banker's offer was $7,000. To borrow a friend to clash, crashing rockets in Dexter's lab, da-da-da-da. So that...
What was the last line?
So I was going to ask, what do you remember as being the one? I remember when we wrote that, it was at that place that Angelica and I stayed in for like 6 months or so. It was like around Elephant Castle.
Yes, that's right.
And you were around. We were in that in the living room there, and I'm just trying to remember like what the.
I've got a feeling it might have been. I'm not 100% sure it's this, but it might have been. That's the problem with That's the problem with Friends That Rap, or it was. Your line idea, I think, which was this is the most frank insulting you've ever had since the banker's offer was $7,000. It was mostly around that last bit, since the banker's offers was $7,000. I think it was that.
I'm just sending you on the chat the
all right.
the thing to the lyrics to look at. But I think you're right. It could have been one of the two. But it's interesting because like that was such a rich scheme. That's often what ends up happening, I guess, is like we obviously started with, you have to start with one thing, right, initially. But the and it would have been a 2-bar thing, because for it to be that long, for the rhyme scheme to be that long, it would have been 2 bars that we thought of initially try and make those two work.
It was definitely the I'm almost certain, looking at it now, the last line. The family's honour will set him back. I'm sure it was that.
I don't know, because that's got so much of an internal before it. Do you remember? So it's got like giving up this time to sort your bros needs.
Yeah.
Just weird. Like, I mean, we could get onto that as well, just like stretching things to make it work. That gangster life you talk is phony. You are like Michael Corleone. And I don't think that would have. I think we would have come up with that a little bit later, but I think we would have. It would have been something where it was a 2-bar.
Yeah.
What if you say that's a problem? That's the problem with Friends That Rap. Is like
cannon fodder. You'd sever that.
Yeah. I think it would have been 2 bars that we came up with first. It might have been like stand and nod and accept this match. Banker's offer was $7,000, and then just from there we realised just how rich that was, and we were just like, fuck it, let's just make the points that we want to make.
Yeah.
Because there was a whole point that we wanted to get across here. Well, a couple of different things.
Yeah.
The doubles title not being, the real thing. That dialect at the time was, being more talked about or whatever than Zen was, I guess. All of this stuff. How do we just do that on the same scheme? And it just so happened that was rich enough that we were just like, we can just go
Yeah, and it's got
run with it.
Yeah, it was. I guess that's the difference when we do something like that now. It's centered around a couple of points, maybe, or like we decide whether we think it's rich enough. That's something we tend to do now. It's like, okay, I want to say this, and I think it would be nice to do this as a long scheme. Let's have a think on it for, I don't know, an hour on a walk around like a park or something, and see how many lines we can sort of figure out on it. And if it's not rich enough, then it can stay as maybe a 4 lines or 4 lines. And if we feel that we've got lots of things that can go on it, then let's see if we can develop this into a 16 lines or 32 lines or whatever.
Yeah, we did that, didn't we, when we were writing
We did for Nils and Skills. Nils and Skills.
Yeah,
and
Nils and Henry. Right? Yeah, that's it. We were just walking around in circles at Clissold Park. Just like, okay, let's come up with more ideas on this.
Yeah,
and I think that's how we came up with that whole mental
the bad back thing. Oh, no, there was a few things. The meatballs, yeah. Yeah, the meatball angle. The famous meatball, which everyone spoke about for years.
Yeah, which all, 50,000 people who saw that battle.
Oh, God.
So, but anyway,
yeah, it's a very interesting, difference between back in the day when we were just writing long things because that felt like, a watermark of impressiveness, compared to now where it's like more of a, if we're doing it, it's like a challenge to ourselves and it must be heightened with context. So I think around that time when we were both starting out, we both had our tryouts, 2012, 2013 time, we were both coming to grips with being forced to, I guess, go into a world of structuring and, keeping to a time limit, things that we possibly didn't really consider before, and also playing to an audience, which we'd never done. And I think, performance aside, which I think actually, we weren't bad at the performance from the off. I think the thing that we both had was rushing through it. I think that was 100%. The thing that and I really didn't stop rushing until a few years ago, not even that long ago. I think the first one where I probably stopped rushing was maybe the Heretic battle, when I learned that I could really slow down, and actually that is what makes the bars pop out, is when you give the audience time to breathe. One of the most important lessons I've ever learnt, in fact, and I think it may have been you who told me it, and probably other people as well, is just that you've got to give the audience an opportunity to understand what you're saying. If you rush through it, you might think that, I'm rushing through it, how impressive is that? But really, the audience want you to, they, as much as people talk down on the idea of spelling something out for the audience, it helps. It is what you need to do. You need to spell things out for the audience. You need to slow it down. You need to make sure that you're being heard, because that's the most important. You can write anything, but if you say it too quickly and people miss it, then it means nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I did say that to you at the time, then it would have been because I was learning those exact same lessons at the time. I was really, really rushing my first few battles, especially the Cracker one. I remember the Cracker one being it is to do a little bit with nerves, I suppose. But and especially when you're not writing to a structure, I think the two kind of are weirdly intrinsically linked. I wasn't writing to a specific kind of 4-bar, 8-bar structure per se, and I think because of that, I wasn't getting to punch. I knew that a punchline potentially was on the horizon, but it could be any number of bars, in the future, maybe random 6 or 7 bars in the future, and I want to get to that point. Yeah. So something subconsciously says, okay, but wait, just stay with me. I'm gonna. You're gonna crack up in a second. You are gonna love this.
I'll tell you what's interesting is that I think you're right. We both suffered with that, and we both sped through our material, except in the 2-on-2s, where even at that point when we were both rushing individually, when we put us together in 2-on-2s, I think it's something to do with the chemistry, sort of knowing that we had the chemistry and that we were sort of working with comedic timing a lot better, because when you have two people, comedic timing goes way up. In the same way that if you see an amateur stand-up doing a 5-minute set, he will be probably, a lot of he or she will be rushing through it. But then when you see a sketch troupe who are amateur at the exact same level, they're going to be a lot more, because they're thinking of how long to leave it between them. They're not necessarily still thinking of the audience. They're thinking of the timing that they need to embody between them.
Yeah, exactly. There was almost like an unspoken kind of rhythm that we would just collect kind of naturally as we were writing and then practicing.
Yeah.
It wasn't ever like we never said the words to each other like "don't rush,"
No.
because it was so ingrained in like how we were performing that we knew, and especially like just being that little bit more comfortable, like having your mate on stage,
Exactly, yeah,
to perform with, that you're doing this with, like kind of makes it that little bit more, yeah, just kind of naturally ingrained, I suppose.
And because we had been performing comedy together for a while before that, even back to like not consistently, but we had done stuff on stage and we had done stuff in like lessons and stuff. You know, when we were working with Helen and Helen Bauer, who's our friend, who's an amazing stand-up follower, by the way. Helen Baybauer, I think her name is on.
She's
on
making
Instagram.
moves as well.
She's making moves, baby. We were working with her and stuff, and to be honest, a lot of it probably came from her as well, because her comic timing is excellent and always has been. And so we probably learned from like drama lessons and all the stuff that we get taken the piss out of for doing, that people think, nah, they're just saying that because it's an angle. No, we did, and we we did do like theatre, and we did do like learning how to act. And I think that kind of thing, when you put us together on a stage, all those lessons are kind of embodied. But when
yeah, go on, sorry.
Just because it's a you know, it's a, what's the word, collaborative effort, and
yeah,
so
and it feels more like
a performance,
show,
yeah,
right. It feels more like a show when there's two of us who, especially because we actually like weave in, you know, performative aspects to it, like little skits or whatever within our bars, within our rounds, like that kind of thing, like the, you know, the security tapes bit with Marlo Quest or whatever. But the so yeah, there's loads of these just like stupid gimmicky bits that we'll throw in, which actually like kind of help to solidify that whole thing. Whereas I think when we first started out solo, it felt more like you have to be rapidy rap, and like that kind of in our heads was synonymous with being fast.
Yeah.
A little bit, and in a sort of subconscious way, there isn't it was much easier to neglect the performative aspects that you have to retain
100%
in a solo than it was in 2-on-2s.
And I think when we had a mini sort of like turning point quite early on in our rapping story journey, which was
Saga.
Legend. when we had Epic. The bad bars and the compliments battle, because after that they got viewed, you know, way more times than we expected it to be viewed, and the compliments, just, I know you saw this as well, just hit 1 million the other day, and like you know, but like the first half of that million happened very quickly, like that 500,000 happened quite soon after it came out, really. And I think because we felt that we had eyes on us, that there was sort of like a bit of a turning point. Actually, I'm neglecting a bit, because I'm neglecting what happened before that, which was when I started getting a bit too serious and too into my own head. We're talking Jack Sexton, and we're talking Sergio. And I was trying to like, I think this is an interesting thing. I don't think you had this moment, or if you did, it was before. But I had this moment where I almost felt guilt of trying to be funny, and it's sort of like comparable to how like white guilt feels a bit, because it's like coming into this world of rap and feeling like, oh, I'll be the funny guy, I'll be the guy who just sort of takes the piss. And you know, our intention was never to parody it. Our intention was always to joke whilst making good stuff. But I kind of felt this inherent sort of guilt about it, like, shit, am I do people think I'm taking the piss? Like, am I not paying enough credence to this art form? Like, are people not thinking that I take it seriously enough? So then I got into that whole like must deliver like with aggression and like be serious and do like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you don't know what I've been through, which actually just does
it's
the
way more
opposite.
Appropriaty. It's way more culturally like appropriate, you know. 100%. It has that way more undertones of cultural appropriation to like do that. Because if you haven't by and large struggled, you know, then why, you know, then it's not like you're not using the art form for like an exertion of kind of that sort of energy, you know? So sure, you could be serious, but like
I remember when you went through that phase of like aggression. So there's like seriousness, which is fine.
Yeah.
And then like genuine kind of like, okay, I'm gonna pretend to be a tough guy now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
On a little bit like through how I'm kind of coming across, which I remember which I think is a perfectly kind of natural reaction to I suppose some of the like critiques that were happening both in battles and out about like us kind of joining as the kind of jokers, and individually speaking as well, as the jokers, like in the joker of the pack.
And again, it's these lessons that again now feel completely rudimentary, but you just don't know them at the time. Like, and that is, of course, you embrace it. You embrace it 100%. You go, I am that guy. That of course I am. How dare I pretend to not be? Of course I am. It's obvious. If everyone's saying it, then of course it is the case. Like, what's that thing? Like, if a man calls you a donkey, you punch him in the face. If another man calls you a donkey, you poke him in the eye. If a third man calls you a donkey, you better buy a saddle.
Yeah.
It's true. Like, if you are, then just go with it and accept it and use it as like a strength. Use it as a way to move on.
But then I think also within that there was like, and still is, a recognition that we wanted to take the art form seriously, which comes into the whole obsession with multis, I suppose, slightly, because it's like that was the technical element, right? that we wanted to make sure that we kind of nail, I suppose.
And we had watched so many battle raps, and we listened to rap, and we sort of knew what was corny or had been done before to a certain extent, and we avoided those things, and we wanted to make sure that we were technical and we had this thing, but like that's not to stop you from accepting that you are also like this character. We are that character, and it's sort of it's a very difficult. I've always thought it's a tricky tightrope to walk that character, because it's sort of like you don't want to go as far as the whole cringy sort of like, yes, I'm middle class, but I rap a lot, and that's why I'm rapping hot, and my hat comes off, and that kind of,
because that also would be disingenuous to genuinely who we are as nuanced human beings anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not just one thing.
Yeah, and yeah. So go on.
But that's it. It's the difference between going too far into that side, which like we've both dipped into and we have done, and try to sort of in the balancing act that it is, and going too serious on the other side, and sort of finding that middle ground where you just go, wait a minute, I don't have to define myself by any specific idea that I am. I just am myself, and that person is as complex as I think, and so I don't have to draw attention to it. I can maybe poke fun at it now and then, in the same way that you do in real life.
100%. And I think actually the 2-on-2s kind of empowered us to do that more. Yeah, I would say, just purely because we were both in the same boat in that respect, and we both kind of had we were able to, I suppose, project that. I think quite. We have that balancing act, I think, the best in the 2-on-2s that we do.
Yeah.
Because we kind of empower ourselves to do both the seriousness and then the like really kind of silliness of just like, oh, hey, look at us, kind of middle class white rappers, just coming out and doing their thing. But like, so there was kind of, it does, I did think that balancing act was best achieved through our doubles battles.
I think so too, and I think it's very interesting because it's kind of like that's in no way specific to us. It was just like our own personal journey, but like this is the kind of thing that any rapper should be thinking, or any performer, full stop, is like when you cut through all the things that you think about yourself and the definitions you put in yourself, the thing that comes out the other side is just you, like how you think and what your brain is and who you are, and that's when you actually start to develop as a writer or a performer or anything. That is that when you come through the other side of that is the moment that you start writing better.
The fact that you're doing that analysis in the first place is part of you.
Yeah,
it's part of what you're discovering about yourself, and that you are like nuanced and have like all of these different facets. So.
And that's when you start to That's when you get like signature moves or like motifs that you start to recognize that are uniquely you. And it's this whole thing of like, you know, fake it till you make it. You have to go through that sort of stage and, you know, copy ideas from other people and take from here and take from there until you've taken all that. And it sounds like such an obvious thing, but I'm kind of realizing it as I'm saying it, that like coming through the other side of that bit that's the chrysalis stage. And then you actually start writing like the only you can. And that's how you become someone who's recognisable. That's how you become someone who stands out.
100%.
In the same way, and it's basically in the same way that you have a conversation with someone. You know, you will say something to someone that only you would say. People know you, and they think like, oh, that's a Theo thing to say, or that's a... You know, you do that in everyday life, but then when it comes to making stuff, we just edit and like self-edit, basically, like too much.
And we'd always be changing as well. I mean, there's things that... I mean, certainly if you're talking just purely about rhymes, there's certainly things that we just simply would not write in battles today that we've put in battles in the past. But even just kind of, even also, you know, content especially as well, you know, that you're constantly self-evaluating. And that happens on an individual basis. So, you know, some of the arguments or debates that you and I would get into would be probably based around that a lot of the time. Would be like, okay... you know, if we'd sat down to write something and one of us kind of disagrees that we should put, you know, that specific thing into the battle where we might have done it, you know, previously in the past. That's all part of the, you know, the journey that anyone goes on as a human being and just kind of evolves.
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of the rhymes, and this is a good conversation to have because we do. Yeah. I guess the assumption from people would be that we completely agree on the rhymes that come out and that we come up with them at the same time. We go, oh, perfect, and then we write it down and we high five. When actually it can be a lot more of a drawn out, slow, finicky bits and pieces thing. Where
that's not to say that doesn't happen. I mean, like,
it does happen.
Like, you know, 90% of the time, like, we'll probably be pretty much in agreement anyway. But yeah, as you say, it's like when you know, those small sort of 10-20% moments kind of like
take up a lot more time.
Take up a lot more time of our time because we're obviously just like if one of us feels really strongly about it, we feel like, okay, this is really going to make like a crowd react. This is really going to be impactful for people watching the battle back. This is then. And sort of then the other person kind of weighs up. Okay, well, how much do I care about this not being in the battle, or care about this wording being exactly this way? Yeah, I don't mind, and often it will just go in the favour of the person who wants the thing to happen. But we also need to recognise that there's a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it's interesting, and this is probably quite interesting for anyone who's like collaboratively writing or thinks or wants to. Is that like this element of compromise is probably going to be handled in different ways by every single person. Like, I know Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant always said if they disagreed on something, then they just cut it. That like if there was a disagreement, they just got rid of it. And we are very much not like that, in that we sort of make cases, and then we make cases to each other, and then the other person refutes that, and then we go silent for a bit, and then we go, actually, no, do you know what?
I've rethought about it, and maybe there is, but then it will also be a thing of like, we'll try and spin it a slight different way.
That's it. One of us.
I definitely, by the way, am a lot more guilty of this as we're talking of this, and I think you'll agree, because I am a lot more.
Of what side?
I think in nature, I think when it comes to really petty, trivial things like things that I get in my head will be amazing. I don't know if that's like I'm a director by trade, and I feel like maybe that's a little bit of kind of artistic sort of vision. I'm gonna like kind of I just know, mate. I've just thought about it. I've thought about it so much more. Trust me. I've been watching all these battles back. This is how, you know, the wave of crowd reactions are going at the moment in terms of like what they're responding to.
Look at my graphs.
We're gonna make Look at this 15.
The data
PowerPoint
speaks for itself,
presentation.
mate.
Yeah, I've put together, and I'll try and build these cases. I think, a lot more. And that's not to say that you don't also do that, and we'll have these discussions too. But it's kind of
it's a very
interesting. We do feel really passionately about it,
Yeah, I do feel it's very interesting. Like, and I mean, this has happened over so much time of working together. But I mean, there was a whole time, a few years back where I just. I don't know that I'm way less likely to get into confrontation than you. You relish in it. You don't mind it. There's nothing wrong with it. I naturally swerve it. If there's the element of confrontation approaching, then I capitulate and I'm like, in my head I'm like, this isn't worth it. I can't be bothered to fall out over this. Let's just carry on. But a few years later into our thing, probably even as recently, a couple of years ago, I started to have more of a bit of like. I still have a bit of a laid back sort of approach to it. I try not to get, because my first instinct is to go, what the fuck? How do you not fucking get this? That's my first thing. But I force myself to go, well, I don't know. I just like it. I just think it's a good idea. And you go, I don't think it works. And I go, I think it does. But in my head, I'm going, just fucking let me have it.
Let me have it. Yeah. And a lot of the time we'll let each other just have it.
Yeah.
And
with a proviso.
With a proviso, well, okay, you do those 4 bars.
Yeah, exactly. You say it then.
And actually, that's, funnily enough, that is where certain things that we've put into battles have literally been there off the back of these kind of discussions, right? And have been solo performed, let's say, because we do a lot of like switching back and forth, obviously, where we do that, writing all the way down the page. But a lot of the stuff we perform as well in 2-on-2s is just solo for 8 bars or whatever, too. And I think, and many of those times, there will have been a discussion around those bars where the person who's not spitting them on the day, who's not actually doing them, will have taken umbrage with them slightly, or had some kind of like, I don't think that's quite going to land, or we're going to hit. It can be as simple as that. It wouldn't be like, it would just be as simple as like, I don't think that's going to land the way that you think it is. And often you've been very right about when I've done that. And at times, I'm trying to think now of examples, because there definitely was some in recent battles.
I can think of one example of something you didn't want in, but I did, and then it did go down well. And,
that's right. Yeah. What was that?
And it wasn't even a rhyme. It was an aside, and it was.
Oh, I know what it was. It was the Stormzy set.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, if people remember from the Matter and P Soldier battle, we have this sort of like punchline machine, which was one of the most surreal elements we came up with in about. But it was like this thing that
I still have that, by the way. So.
And it says the first one says, it comes out and it goes, I'll run up in your house like, come dine with me. And then you go, what? And I go, oh fuck, it's stuck to the Stormzy setting. Yeah. And you were like, that doesn't work. Like, for one, that's not even the kind of thing that Stormzy even would say, and like, I don't think people are going to find. And I was sort of like, I think my defense was, I think I agree with you, but I know it will work. That was my thought. Like, I think you're correct, but I know it still will get a reaction just from the way that we said, and it did, and I was really happy. And I think there's a bit where you look at me and you go, "You fucking
where we exchange a look at where I was obviously really happy that we got a great reaction, but also just really annoyed at having been wrong.
And I was smug,
but not even not even like been wrong. Like, I wasn't annoyed about being wrong. I was annoyed at the discussion that we'd had weeks before, where I'd made a real point of this, like, mate, just don't say it, because it just looks really stupid. Like, what people are just gonna be like, what, kind of thing. And they obviously weren't, and it was the complete opposite. And it was just it was just funny, and there was absolutely no need for me to have got that weirdly passionate about it. But I'm trying to think if there were probably other ones. I'm sure there've been big cases where I've defended something and we've kept it in, that I've done, and it's not necessarily gone down as well as like I thought it was, would have been after a discussion. Probably I don't think we had too much of a discussion about it, but I remember you just being happy with me like keeping it in, but like it didn't go down that well, and I think at the time you were just like, oh, okay, yeah, I suppose, like, if you're happy, if you're confident people will get that, then fine, it'd be that kind of thing. Whereas it was kind of, you saying that you weren't so sure about it, and it was in the dialect and Zen.
Was
battle,
it the U2?
Yeah, the U2 one, the U2 bar, which didn't really go down that well.
I remember this conversation happening, actually. So like,
yeah,
this is interesting because I do remember this bit, and the conversation was. It came from you as like this is the classic director hat. That you said, I know this is a bit of a bar, but I just want to have like a good solid bar, and so that was you saying, this is going in whether you like it or not, and I'm going to do it. And it was, I know this
I try it.
I know this isn't always the kind of thing I do, but I just want to have like a proper bar, okay? And I was like, all right. And I didn't mind a lot. I thought it was quite clever. But I think you got in your own head about it because it wasn't the kind of thing. And so the way you performed it was maybe a bit like too much of a... So that's why it didn't go down as well. But
it should have just been a throwaway. I should have just delivered it like when I last refreshed my phone.
Yeah.
Like kind of very dead-eyed, like kind of like,
what was
you can have this
bar?
or you cannot. The full bar was... hang on, I'll find it.
We'd rather Bowski and Sarters get a go, but you two have been pushed on us. Like when I last refreshed my phone. Yeah, because
and I think I was very often in battle rap for viewers or wannabe battlers out there, hopeful battlers out there. Often when you see a battle rapper, completely overperform, and this probably isn't just the case for battle rap, although I suppose it is, because you've actually got the framework, the space is one of an audience receiving a bar for the first time, as opposed to a gig or whatever. You know the songs, but anyway, if a battle rapper completely over delivers a line or just puts way too much like emphasis on it, that is them like 9 times out of 10, I'm sure of this, trying to reinforce how good they think that bar is, and how much it deserves in terms of people's energy in the room.
That's exactly it. It's the insecurities around it coming out. It's the same way in like the little guy might like shout at you if you get a little bit too close to him in a club. It's the insecurities combined with your own self-confidence mixing.
I had another... I mean, this is often the case for me when I do serious bars. And I had another one in that same battle, which was... that's why Zen will never battle him with an opponent on a roll. But if a battler's sucking, he'll snap him up. Like a photo of a pole.
That was a conversation.
Which we'll talk about. Because it could be for him an easy win, and he's going for the gold. Football bars are shit, but if it's appropriate, I'm sold. Being a poacher is your role. That makes you closer to your goal. And I delivered that like slowed down.
Yeah.
Like just kind of, being a poacher is your role. That makes you closer. Like... closer to the footballer who's known as a poacher. Does everyone get that before I do the right? Yeah, to your goal, because he gets the goals, doesn't he, from it as well? So that was basically what I was trying to do by slowing it down way too much and over delivering it. But that photo of a pole. Yeah,
he'll snap him up like a photo of a pole. And I remember it was like, because I didn't even understand, but this was at the point where I maybe wasn't bringing it up until like. We got a lot closer to the battle than we should have been by the time I brought that up, because I was like, what do you mean, by the way, when you say snap them up like a photo of a pole? And you were like, well, if there was a pole, then it'd be up, and if you're taking a picture, then you snap it up.
A pole being like a lamppost or something, not a Polish person. Like, I just want to make that clear as well, because it's like, snap them up, like, obviously you're much lower than it, and if you wanted to take a photo of that street lamp, then it's a photo of a pole which you're taking from super low.
It's such a surreal thing to expect people to get.
It's such a pointless bar, which I knew anyway, kind of going into it, so that I put that in the middle, so that I knew that wasn't going to be like your showcase kind of final bar. But like, I wanted something to rhyme, and there'd be a weird, like, kind of funny bar in there. But it's just such a it just makes
very strange.
You've got to skate over it, because it makes absolutely no sense. I don't think. I mean, no one's done these annotations that you have on Rap Genius anyway.
Right.
But that would have definitely been one of those skipped over lines.
Yeah, just question mark.
That no one annotates anyway, because it just makes no sense.
Did they get the wording right? Have they written down on the Genius a photo of a pole, or did they mishear it?
They got that right. But weirdly,
they didn't hear the word football, so they've just got a question mark in brackets. Bars are shit.
Right.
But it's and so that's strange. But anyway, what was I going to say? There was another one as well. I think in a more recent battle.
I tell you what. There was a big conversation. Was the in the Germany battle.
Yeah.
When at the in the first round, when I had stuff about the Nazis, basically.
Yeah.
And quite rightly, you stopped me from putting it in, because a lot of the time, I have a bit of an affliction, and I think this is a genuine thing, not like an illness or anything, but like a bit of a thing in my head that says everybody in the world thinks the exact same way that I do. And so if I make an inappropriate joke, then I know that people will immediately go, I understand that he's being ironic, and I'm fine with that. And that, it turns out, is not the case.
Is not the case. In fact, quite the opposite. There's a small minority of people, luckily, that you have as a big sort of fan base, which is great, who do understand that you're being ironic and that you have that. But the
vast majority of humans,
especially in Germany, where it's not our audience, wouldn't get that. But we compromised on that a lot, didn't we?
That was compromise. I felt like I was giving up a lot for you, but what it actually turned out to be was that it became completely appropriate. Like the amount that is in that battle of bringing up the Nazis is an appropriate level of what it was. What it was at the beginning, what I wanted to and fought for, partly because I think I wrote it knowing that you wouldn't want it all in. And so I sort of built it up in my head like, oh, he's going to have a problem with this, but I just got I've got to stand my ground and just say, no, do you know what's going in? I know I know it might not seem like it's appropriate, but people will get it. Yeah. That when it was at that level, that was completely inappropriate and way too much. And if I had said it, it probably, it might not have been a good thing.
Yeah, and I genuinely still believe that, and I can't remember what the actual sort of wordings with it was.
Let's not dwell.
I do remember there being a kind of didn't it go round? I don't know if this was the first iteration of it, but we were going to do like a kind of like atrocity off. Where we were basically like, oh yeah, well it's not quite the British Empire, is it? Because Nazism was bad, but it's not quite the British Empire. Yeah. Which was a kind of like, just trying to be like.
It's like that was it. It was like we're responsible for more deaths, for more. Yeah, it was exactly, it was like a tragedy off, as Helen says.
Yes, yeah, and I think so. It was strange because then I think was on board slightly for that version of it a little bit more for a bit, but then I realised look, just people are going to probably struggle to keep up with us at the best time because it's not their first language.
Yeah.
Although people speak English in Germany far better than a lot of people speak English in Britain, but certainly myself. But then it just didn't feel like something that the Germans would have, a German crowd would have been behind in any way. I can't remember the exact ins and outs of it, but that was definitely one where we.
It was basically the compromise was definitely a good thing there, and
what was it that we actually did in the end? It was
we want to apologise on behalf of all the Englishmen who come from Britain and do the Hitler salute. It's something. It's rude, and it shows that there's only one image of you.
That's right. Yeah.
And then, all right. Well, right now, all I can think of is you killing the Jew, and you go, whoa, and so we don't say it.
And
that was part of the agreement between us, was that we wouldn't literally say the term killing the Jews.
Yeah, because I'm always of the opinion that you shouldn't make a crowd feel uncomfortable.
Call me crazy.
Which is what I think that was what it came down to. I was like, look, we can touch on this a little bit and make us out to be the joke, which is what we did in the end. Which is make us out to be the buffoons, right?
Yeah.
In this scenario. But what it was in the initial versions was Which I do remember at first. This is where it sort of got contentious. Is that
Yeah.
At first, I agreed with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is funny because we're laughing at how unbelievably inappropriate this would be, and because it's a sort of battle rap audience." And then I sort of revised it and was like, "Hang on, let's put this into the context of actually being an audience member there, and wanting to get on side with us, or us wanting them to get on side with us." That it just wouldn't have worked. But yeah, the compromise worked in that case. There was another recent example of something that it wasn't until literally on the day, I think it was really recently. It was one of the more recent, I think, battles
until the actual day itself,
where you kind of didn't realise what I was talking about in a specific reference.
It's something to do with Italian worker. It's
yes,
like an Italian accent.
It was okay. So it was Soul and Quill.
Right.
I
thought you were
compliments. Yeah, that's right.
A weaker suspension.
Yeah, a weaker suspension. So we have a line against Soul and Quill, which was a compliment battles, compliment bar to them, where we're doing this whole Volvo bit, which is a continuation of this completely obscure angle that we did for Henry and Nils. And let's just put it out there, by the way, for anyone who doesn't understand, we are not sponsored by Volvo.
We just thought because
maybe
we were going,
we are, and that's why we've thrown that in.
Because we were against someone from Sweden. I think it's Sweden, isn't it, where it's from?
Yeah, originally.
We just thought we would make the joke that we were sponsored by something from his home country.
Yeah.
And then for some reason we really ran with that angle.
because of like the Oreos and the Foot Locker stuff we've done in the past, like people have said we're sellouts, so we just kind of like use that as a strength, turn that weakness into a strength kind of thing, and try and flip it back on to people and make fun. Anyway, so it was sort of satirical, I suppose. But then for some reason we thought, enough people have seen that we'll repeat that in London when we battle Soul and Quill.
It's a motif.
It's a motif. But we knew that Soul had seen it, and the main thing was Soul had actually commented on it and found it really funny, so we wanted to do it for him. And there was one line, wasn't there, which was just like, think cars that aren't a Volvo, just a weaker suspension.
Yeah, so the joke was that Soul punched Caustic, but didn't get thrown out for long. It was only a week of suspension. Because they couldn't help but take him back in because we love him so much. And you were saying, think cars that aren't a Volvo, just a weaker suspension, like a weaker, but also a week of. But up until the day, I thought that you were saying in an Italian accent, think cars that aren't a Volvo, just a weaker suspension. And I was like,
so I was saying weak suspension, but in an Italian accent.
Yeah. So
why?
And I was like, can I just ask? Like, because I think we were practicing, and I was like, why are you doing it in that accent? Like, I get that it rhymes, but like, I thought you were doing it in that accent just to make it fit the syllable count. And you were like, no. You were like, why? How would that? What relevance would that have? Why would you? No. And I was like, okay, right.
Oh, right.
So,
weaker.
Right, and then I was like, I see. That's fine.
Cars that aren't Volvo have a weaker suspension than cars that are.
Yeah.
But on that note, it probably brings us round to talking about multis or rhymes. More. Because that was like that was, I assume, a situation where you thought that I'd put on an accent to make the syllable count work. which
still would have been a funny thing to do.
It's funny.
But I guess I just had to question it.
You were sort of getting weirded out at the fact that I wasn't putting on the accent, even though I was saying weaker.
Yeah. I thought you were just saying what you'd only seen the accent written down, maybe.
Yeah.
But this is an interesting conversation. I'm wondering about time. Are you okay for time?
I'm more than okay for time, and I mean, as long as you're okay to put out like a slightly longer.
Well, maybe I'll do it in 2 parts. If it gets to 2 hours, which is 50 minutes,
I'm fine for time until about 12. So yeah,
wicked. I sort of feel like this could be a regular thing. To be honest, I'm really enjoying this. So yeah, basically, when it comes to the discussion of like rhymes, not writing, not coming up with bars, but like literally getting the rhymes rhyming, we do have differences there. And although we have a similar benchmark in what we consider to be quality, we still now and then that benchmark is one thing for one person, one thing for the other person, and also like the photo of a poll thing, like for example, and then also now and then we just have literal disagreements on what does or does not rhyme, like the literal act of this not rhyming with this, but I say that this does rhyme with this.
Deep sea diver.
Yeah, deep sea diver. Well, do you want to talk about that?
One of your rhyme challenges recently was
I'll get it up now.
Pizza driver.
Yeah, Peaky Blinder.
Peaky Blinder.
Let me see. Wait a minute. It was. So I'll leave the contentious one for the end so that people can hear it in situ. But it was Frequent Flyer, Peter Piper, Peaky Blinder, Steven Tyler, Easy Rider, Freedom Fighter, Equalizer, Deep Sea Diver.
All great except Deep Sea Diver for me.
So what is your beef with it?
So C in the middle for me. That is not. All of the rest of those are examples of, as you've called them, arrow rhymes, right? Where the arrow goes.
With a sort of tail. Yeah, like D D D D.
Yeah, D D. Well, it's a stressed, unstressed,
stressed, and then a little bit at the end.
At
Deep sea dive.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
With a sort of tail, yeah.
Because it's a 4, yeah. And then
so frequent flyer, for example.
Frequent flyer, easy rider. For me, in my speech patterns at least, they go down, and the word C in the middle
for deep sea diver
feels stressed. So for me, it feels like 3, like a pitchfork. 3 stressed.
Trident rhyme. They're called.
Trident. Okay. Officially. 3. Yeah. So for me, that's more of a trident rhyme with a tail, as you'd say. So I wouldn't have included it. Deep sea diver, because it feels too rushed otherwise. Like I'd say deep sea diver, easy rider. You know,
this is an interesting thing, and it's something we've talked about before. And I can remember a different example going the other way as well.
Yep.
So for example, in this one, I one of the things that I have said in this podcast and live by in terms of the writing is that the written form is 3/4 of what comes out, and the last quarter is the delivery and how you sell it. You know, definitely. What you put into it. So for me, and I know that you, if I said in a battle, he's a frequent flyer, but that's nothing, I'm deeper than a deep sea diver and he's a liar, then you wouldn't blink at it.
No, not at all.
However,
when in this context.
In its context, because you've heard me say it. You haven't seen it written down. You've heard me say it. Deep sea diver, and I've shortened that C. I've finessed it, as Immaculate says. Finesse those syllables to make them, work for you. But when you see them written down, and it's just like the cold light of day, it's almost sort of like under a fine-tooth comb. You see those things written down, and you go, out of context, these things don't match up syllabistically or in terms of their stress patterns,
or are a different stress pattern, exactly. Because in a battle, anything like that, same with the S Club 7 one you said at the beginning of the that, I think that's 3 stress syllables as opposed to
S Club 7
S Club 7 Evanescence. If you're putting it under in the context of this, like you say, putting it under a fine-tooth comb and putting it next to each other, like I say, if we wrote it for a battle,
and I think this is interesting because it's one of the things. Like sometimes we put into, like when me and Jamie and Charlie and Frankie are working on like the new book, and we're working on the schemes that go onto the challenges. We sometimes do put in ones that are contentious, like deliberately sometimes, in order for people to sort of like realise that there is a bit of movement with the rhyme, and sometimes they only work. Like I've said it on like episode 2 of the first series, which was talking about mutating rhyme schemes. Rhyming Grace Kelly with HMV. They don't sound good together. But you can finesse them, and you can work with them, and you can build to it. You can go Wayne Gretzky with a HMV and Grace Kelly, and you can do things that make it work. But that's
100%.
That's up to the person. It's almost like getting tablature for a guitar and seeing it and going, and then playing it exactly as you see it. That won't sound like it's got any heart, or it won't sound like the song that it is when you've heard it on the radio. The next 25% is you learning to get comfortable with it and playing with it and messing about with it and making your own changes, and that's when it gets a bit of like, character in it. So that's what I think my relationship is with those kind of things like that, like Deep Sea Diver being written down and knowing that people have to work with it to make it work.
And I think there's so many examples where we've seen, battlers or rappers more widely using rhymes that we just never could, even though their accents might be similar in certain ways to ours, even if they're like sort of American accents, which aren't completely dissimilar to ours. Like they definitely have differences, but there's certain slants or stretches to
100%, like
the way that words are pronounced and things.
I remember Thesaurus rhyming pyramid scheme with cheerleading team, and for me, like it sounds fine when he says it. Again, like when you hear it, because he's worked on, he knows how to play. Scheme? Yeah, he's like he's a cheerleading team and the pyramid scheme. It was like that.
Yeah, nice.
And it sounds absolutely fine. But if you see those two things written down, cheerleading team and pyramid scheme, then the stress is out, the rhyme is off, and like all these things are wrong with it. But when you hear him say it, you go, oh, I see, I get it. It's like looking at a painting from a different angle and going, oh, right, here I understand.
Yeah, 100%. That makes sense.
So I think that's why sometimes the rhymes are a bit contentious, is because when you think of rhymes, you're thinking how they sound, and then you write it down, and then people see it with no context, without the thought of having been sat there and thinking on it for so long, thinking on the sound. You go, oh, Deep Sea Diver. Oh, of course, Deep Sea Diver. And then you write it down, and then if I came back to it a year later and I saw it, I might be like, Deep Sea Diver. Oh, Deep Sea Diver.
Yeah.
So like it's one of those things. But I completely empathise with it, and I completely get what you mean.
There's been loads of other like examples in our kind of writing history, I suppose. Want.
I was going to bring this up because you said want, and every time you say it, I notice it that you say want instead of want, as in WANT. If people aren't, So we literally just say that word differently. It's like I had this conversation with Danny Pandolfi the other day with one. He says one, even though he's from Bristol. He says one, and I've never come across that. It turns out it's relatively. We both had no idea that the
things that would rhyme with one in his accent would be just completely normal. Naturally, you would assume that they it rhymes with ton or something. Or ton. You could probably make those work.
And I can think of 3 examples, I think, of this occurring. One of them is the want thing, and then that's come up and you've said something, and I've been like, but you're stressing. You're saying once, and you're
So to give that an example in context, like I would rhyme want with like shut, for example, shut and want, but in a kind of in a context of a multi, for example.
Yeah, shut up and go. I want you to
shut
know.
up and go. I want you to know. And shuffle should flow.
Yeah,
shuffle should flow. I want him to know that shut up and go, and
And so
stuff is whoa.
It might have even been that you wrote something that I ended up saying. It's probably like that, and I've been like, this doesn't.
I can't do it.
Or you say want, and then I follow it, and I'm like, well, this doesn't. So, and that's when it would have come up.
And how? Well, then what would you rhyme it with again? So yours is like want, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
like shot or
shot.
got or fought. Yeah. So it would cause a bit of, but like we just realised that that's just how it goes. There was another one as well. I don't know if this was you or whether this was Jamie Blease, but he says. Or you say Stevie Wonder instead of Stevie Wonder.
I say Stevie Wonder.
Right. So Jamie Blease says Stevie Wonder, as in to rhyme with beta blocker Stevie Wonder, and
Ponder.
And I would say Stevie Wonder eat another.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
So
then I find that even stranger though, that you do that and yet don't say want.
It's just
was and then so fluid.
The last one was oh shit, I just had it and now I've lost it. It was something to do with it was one particular time. It was only one particular time. Maybe it was recently. I'm not going to remember it, so I'm going to move on. But the point is that this is a really interesting thing, and doing the challenges. Putting the challenges out every day for about 230 days has taught me so much about the flexibility of language, even down to miles apart. A couple of miles apart from someone. It's like it's choice on how you say things. It's your upbringing. It's where you're from. It's ideas that you've had that have stuck in your brain. orienteer. It was orienteer because I
remember that.
I say orienteer as in Nottinghamshire, and you say orienteer as in more of this deer. And it turns out you're right. I looked into it, and it is or, but I had just never heard it like that. Or I had heard it once, like orienteer, and
because I remember you set that as
it was a rhyme challenge
or
on the
one
Patreon.
of the questions. Yeah.
And it was from Nottinghamshire,
find it.
And you had to say, I think you're thinking of this, but I don't say it. You got it, but you were like, I think.
Yeah.
But you forced it, and I think we even got my manager on the phone to see how she says it.
Yeah. Mediator, just get in the middle.
The overall point of this, and the thing that I've taken away from the daily challenges is that what I used to do, and I think you'll remember, I used to get a bit frustrated when people wouldn't get it right, and people would put things on on the challenges, and I'd be like, oh, they're just not, like, why don't people get this? Why don't people get this? And now and then I would even comment and say, you're nearly there, or I'd say, I'm going to put a smiley face if you've got it right and a frowny face if you've got it wrong, so that, because I wanted people to learn about it, and I realised that that's completely, like, you just can't do that. Unless you're with someone, hearing them say it aloud, you can't do it, because I was getting people from Scotland who say things like worm as if it's a sound, as like worm, and so that completely changes the thing. We've got people from the from the European bloc who say things like where an sound goes to an sound. So instead of saying catch me if you can, they say catch me if you can. That changes. That's a whole shift. There's things like the difference between the south and the north of England, and also like the Midlands, of saying things like fuck, like fuck, and everything rhyming with foot. If it's like shut the door instead of shut the door, so they just don't have that sound readily available, like in the vocabulary at all. And we have foot and those things having a very specific. There are just so many of these things that there is no way through seeing someone written down, which is why now I don't do it, and I hate seeing people do it because they clearly haven't learned what I've learned, which is everyone says things differently,
But on that note, then why do you think it is that? Okay, so accents and specific dialect aside,
right? So I'm talking to a clone of myself.
Ways of pronouncing things. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, why do you think it is that a lot of people seem to struggle with multis initially?
I think when
it feels like you're almost falling to the trap of over-explaining it to people, because you're just like, look, it's this simple, and trying to like kind of explain. Because people just seem to think, at least in my experience, that it's just about syllables matching up as opposed to the rhyming stressed syllables matching up from assonance.
And part of the problem is that sounds like it sounds like you're saying the same thing. They think it's about this when it's actually about this, and it sounds like you're saying the same thing, but because it's a finicky thing to explain. And I think there's a few reasons for it. The first one being that traditional rhyme is so completely ingrained into your brain that, like, one thing rhymes with one thing and that's it. Cat rhymes with mat. It does not rhyme with fact. It does not rhyme with hash. It does not and if you say that's a half rhyme, then people don't say, oh, okay, that's a half rhyme. They go, yeah, exactly, that's a half rhyme. It doesn't, that's not a rhyme. So first of all, it's getting over that thing, not rhyming perfectly and that feeling like it's something less than rhyming traditionally. So I think that's the first obstacle for people to get.
I've had that debate when we were first starting in, like, don't flop and like do just writing a lot. I was having that debate with, like, housemates and things like that. Just about it. Who just said exactly those things, and I would get so annoyed. I'd be like, look, you wouldn't question it. You would not question it if you heard it in a battle or in a song.
That's the
whatever.
thing. That's the thing that we always think, is that, like, look, you've heard people rhyme like this, you just haven't noticed it, and like it's good for that reason. And so, but like. When you, again, it's like the difference between reading it and saying it. The difference between hearing it in a track in context and hearing it being said. It does make a difference. And when people don't like the fact that you're rhyming it, they will emphasise it so much more. So they won't go hash and cat. They'll go hash and cat. And then you go, when you do that, of course it doesn't work as much. But like, that's a really difficult thing for people to get over, because in a lot of people's heads, those words simply do not rhyme. It's like rhyming glass with bin. It just like, why would you think of it? How does that even started? Where did that process start? So it's like, first of all, you've got to like forget. It's one of those corny things to say, but it's like, forget everything you think you know about rhyme.
Yeah.
And
then you have to learn about not learn, but just appreciate assonance
and
as an idea, as a concept instead. And I think as soon as people can do that, then it's fine.
Well, and then it's the question of like explaining the syllable matching up and thing. Someone said something to me the other day which I found was quite interesting. I forget who it was, but I'm sure they'll message me. They said something like, people need to realise that multisyllabics aren't several rhymes happening in a row. They are one rhyme.
Yes,
that encapsulates several bits, and I thought that was a really interesting distinction.
Yeah,
it's not It's not like if you say Levi jeans and refried beans, you're not necessarily rhyming E and then I and then E. You are rhyming refried beans. That's the full thing. In order to come up with it, you might have to think about it individually and go through like, let me start at E at the end and then work back. But ultimately, what you are rhyming is the full sound.
On Eminem's latest album, The Music's Been Murdered By, he has like you heard it, the little intermission that he has where he's like does one of his calls to Paul.
Oh that was the album before. That was,
was it? Okay. Yeah. Well, where he's complaining about basically, don't you get it?
Yeah.
Suck, like I'm not.
Sucker free, confident,
sucker free, confident boss. Do you get it? I'm rhyming the whole fucking sentence.
Yeah. Someone said I literally rhymed rhyme with time.
Yeah.
And
sucker free, dimes, or
Yeah.
And so that kind of is probably symptomatic of that same distinction that is a difference with the way that people are perceiving rhymes, right? Is not that he's rhymed, a bunch of words, like you say, individually. Like, he considers it to be, I've rhymed an entire sentence.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not every word. Like, if he had said, do you get it? I rhyme each word individually. That would be a whole different meaning and understanding of ultimately the same thing. And some people do define it like that.
Yeah.
Which is fine, I suppose.
Well, as long as you're getting the same output, but it probably, like, it might be down to, if you understand rhyme in the way that means that you can come up with them competently and consistently, then it kind of doesn't matter how you define it, I suppose. But I think that in terms of understanding it or coming to grips with it, seeing it as a whole rather than individual bits is a better way. And even when you see these videos that people do where they have the lyrics and they colour in the different rhymes in different colours, and they say, even then they're doing like orange for this bit, blue for this bit, yellow for this bit, and then they'll do that again. When actually, what I would do and what we would do probably is highlight the whole thing and put it in one colour and say, this is one rhyme and it rhymes with all of this.
Yeah, and we might capitalise the stressed syllables versus the unstressed syllables. And actually, sometimes when this is another insight into like how we write, when we send each other notes, which we'll often do, like if we've got a battle coming up or whatever, and we haven't really put our ideas together yet, like there'll be a period of like a bit of time where we'll just be writing individually and send each other ideas. And if in certain cases we just send those bars written down and we think that the other person, and we both do this, we think that the other person isn't going to hear the full sentence, we'll stress the initial syllables or whatever in it to make sure, okay, no, actually, this is an 8-syllable rhyme as opposed to a 4, which you'll probably see it as, or something like that, and so we'll capitalise those initial bits in the rhyme.
Yeah, which obviously we wouldn't need to do if we just read it out to each other, but we're just not. Yeah.
I think I did that with what's been some of the longest ones we've written. I had one 15-syllable one in the Fantastic Battle.
Well, we were trying to flex a bit on that one, but we had a 21-syllable one against Big J and Lefty.
Oh, Big J and Lefty, yeah.
Which was the this man's a freaking clone of this man's a decent clone of Alka freaking Pona, Hardcase, and criminally gangster and criminally manly thug. He has the actual hemoglobin of Al Pacino's role in Scarface. That's literally gangster blood.
Yeah,
and
that was a 21.
Yeah, that was like 21 syllables, and it was kind of like internals working in there as well.
But I think so when those kind of videos come out where they color, like you say, each word, they color code it. Then maybe that is the easiest way that people who aren't so like accustomed to this, thinking about it in these ways, can try and initially understand it.
Perhaps
it's like it's every because it's not about each individual word again, rhyming perfectly. Like it has to be half rhymes a lot of the time, you know, in a multi for it to work as like a full thing. But yeah, weirdly, like it just seems like people kind of grasp it. Like, do you get that it's every word or every, you know, syllable is kind of rhyming. But even when you explain it in that way, people still come back and say, oh, okay, well, you know, the word everyone rhymes with bit of fun.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah. And that's another thing that people struggle with. I think those are the main reasons why people struggle with it. Is like you have to forget a lot of what you think you know about rhyming, or what you do know about rhyming, and you have to, like, a lot of the time you have to be told, no, that doesn't rhyme, but you know it 100% does. Like that's what people do a lot of the time on the challenges, which really, like, it kind of frustrates me to see people being so absolute with it to people. Like someone will put something like you know, coming home, and I don't know, I can't think of a single thing, like telephone and coming home, and someone will say to them, that doesn't rhyme, and I'm thinking, oh, don't say that, because of course it does rhyme. Of course it does. It's not a multi, but of course telephone and coming home, like it does rhyme. Don't tell them, because then that's going to make them double down. You telling me that telephone and coming home doesn't rhyme,
and then you don't know if that person is complaining about the fact that it's an O-N-E and an O-M-E,
exactly, and then
or if they're just complaining about it not being a multi.
Yeah, and it gets so confused, and it's because people talk in these absolutes. I mean, this is just like a bigger conversation about the internet full stop and social media, but like people talk in these absolutes all the time. This doesn't rhyme. This you're nearly there, but you're not quite there. This isn't you know, all these kind of things, and it's like no one is the arbiter of this. This is what I've learned about, you know, from doing it. Like I say, no one is the arbiter of rhymes, because it differs from every single person. You and I rhyme things differently, and we rhyme together as a job, basically. Like, you know, you know, me and Danny Pandolfi, Craft D, who, you know, we have disagreements over things. Me and Bleeze have disagreements over things. There is no arbiter of rhyme. It doesn't exist. If you think you're right, then you are for you, and not necessarily for everyone else.
If you can make it work in your, performatively speaking, if you can make it work in your voice, in your accent, then of course it works.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's
yeah.
And then the only other question comes down to things of like, you know, obviously it's kind of counterintuitive, because I'm saying there is no arbiter, but then I'm the person who's retweeting my favourite ones on Twitter. And, you know, but like
you are literally the arbiter.
I'm sort of like that's just my challenge putting out. So if you get involved, then I'm going to put my favourite ones up. They might not necessarily be the best ones. There's loads of things I have disagreements with. You know, someone today put up held to ransom for Esther Ranson. For me, that L is too much of a thing. I still retweeted it because I know that they wouldn't. I know this person always puts down good rhymes, and they wouldn't have done it if it didn't rhyme in there. So there's so many things to take into consideration with it, and you know. It's interesting as well to think of like why there is an element of quality when we're looking at rhymes in themselves. You know, one thing in a list, you know, of things that I've put down, and these are my suggestions. Esther Ransom, Temper Tantrum, whatever. These are, a lot of them are mine, and those ones are mostly Jamie's actually. What's the element of quality there? Like, why is one rhyme better than one other rhyme? Why is that? You know, why is, when they're just things and they're out of context and they are just things like Temper Tantrum, you know what that is, and Leslie Grantham, you know who that is, or you know it's a name, so it's like it's a thing. But some people put down something and it just won't hit the same. Even though it's technically just as good, it just doesn't. It doesn't. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a question of obscurity. Some things are like throwbacks that you go, oh, that's good, and so I never would have thought of that, so that makes it better.
Or it's just, I mean, a lot of the time especially when you're doing these rhyme challenges, and the objective is to stay within, you know, fully formed ideas, basically.
Yeah.
So sorry, whole ideas in themselves, proper nouns or you know, proper sayings or terms, you know, that kind of stuff. It is also easy to just find, you know, an obscure celebrity that most people won't know about.
Yeah.
like not a celebrity then I suppose, like a public figure
or a character,
or character or something that the majority of people don't know about, to kind of add to a list. And then technically, I suppose, it is definitely like a sort of whole idea within itself, and that sticks to the quote unquote rules of the the game, so to speak. But like, but it's never going to be as nice or as kind of a satisfying feeling as clocking someone that, if you were sat at a pub table with 6 of your mates, you're going to say the name and every one of them is going to know who it is, or at least the vast majority. So yes, you can, like, because I do this all the time when I see your rhyme challenges, and if I see them and I have time to respond or whatever, I'll think, like, oh, are there any like really obvious ones that maybe he's missing or that they're deliberately leaving out, for us to clock and that no one's commented on. And the answer is almost always no, because like people are so good at it, they just quickly respond, and like they've quickly got it anyway, or terms or sayings or whatever. So then you just I'll start going to Google after a while and be like, how does this, like, what celebrities that start with Terry, or
this is what me and
Derek or whatever.
Me and Frankie always say, it's like you just start working with sounds after a while, and you're just like, if it's Leslie Grantham, then you go Derek, and see what Google finishes off for you. Derek, and then it suggests, no,
Terry,
no one there. And then you go, right, okay, Debbie, no, okay, all right, Stefan, and then after a while, you'll get like an obscure author of like a Mills and Boon styles book
like,
from like the 60s. And
oh my god, that's amazing! Everyone's gonna know about
shaking, shaking as
and all of a sudden. You've researched their entire biography in those 5 minutes, and you're an expert. So you go.
Oh, what you don't know?
Well, you didn't know who that was.
That's hilarious.
So that's
that's exactly it.
That's really good.
Brilliant. There's so many different things that we could talk about, but we probably are getting on for time a bit now. It's 1 hour 37. I think I might put this out as a whole, actually.
Cool. Well, let's.
But I'd like to do this again. I think that this was a really good. If we can think of more topics to do,
I would hate to. I would really.
Me, not so much. Right,
not so much. With you, wouldn't have thought so.
I'm gonna do the quiz now. Cool. But I'm not 100% sure whether people can. No, they won't be able to see my screen. They can just see the recording of the thing. They won't be able to see my documents, will they?
Yeah, no. It's just recording the
actual
our
Zoom.
faces.
All right.
Yeah. But I realised as well when you were going through them at the beginning of this, right?
Yeah.
Normally I am actually fairly good.
You are pretty.
In this, but straight away, based on the speed that you say them at. When you normally deliver these on the podcast.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll fare better now.
All right.
Because you'll be doing.
Because I usually repeat them and
Yeah, and it gives me a little bit more time. But I obviously won't say the answers.
Yeah, please don't.
In fact, no, I'll send them to your chat if I think I've got it. I'll send them on chat.
Oh, what?
As in, have you got chat up now on Zoom?
Won't that be recorded though?
Well, no, and if it is, no, because it literally just records the
conversation, not the chat.
Conversation, okay. and if it is, then I'll cut it out when we.
Oh yeah, you'll edit it.
Do the thing anyway.
All right, here we go. I'll give you. I'll start.
But I obviously won't get any now.
All right, so here we go. So this is episode episode 2 of series 2. So it's the 10th one or whatever, something like that. Anyway, I don't know even why I said that. Right, number 1, snake venom. Snake venom. And the clue is, goodness gracious. All right? Goodness gracious. You got it? Good. All right, next one. I know you'll get this one, Theo.
No, I didn't. I put what I thought before the clue it was going to be.
All right, well, I think you'll get this one. Number 2 is Tame Impala. And the clue is a singer. A singer. Now, the stress is a bit of a questionable one here, but I think people will get it. That's what I'm saying. I think the stress is on the last syllable, might sometimes be said a slightly different way, but also I think you'll get it anyway. I think people get that. Okay, number 3. Freshwater, as in Kevin. And the clue is top offices. top offices. Okay. Number 4 is burial ground. Lovely term that. I've always liked that term. Burial ground, and the clue is funfair. Okay. That's quite a perfect-y sounding rhyme, that one. Okay, and then we've got vibrator. Don't let it out your sight. And the clue is building. And that could be the noun, or it could be the verb. I'm not going to tell you. Right, number 6 is Bin Laden. We all remember him. Bin Laden. And the clue is let down. Bit of a letdown. All right, number 7 is business management. So quite a long sounding one. And the clue is food. What? Oh, no, sorry. I've put the clue in the wrong place. Right, the clue is comedian. For that one. For business management. Alright, number 8. Live a little. Live a little. And the clue is actor. So it's an actor's name in that one. Alright, number 9 is roadblocker. Roadblocker, and the clue is TV. And then number 10, that's quite a good one, that one. Number 10 is docking station, which I don't know if I know what that is, but I know it is a thing. Anyway, and the clue is subtle advert. That's a bit more of a cryptic-y style one. So docking station, and the clue is subtle advert. All right, number 11, off balance, and its founding father is the clue. So think of a founding father. The next one is founding father, is when it rhymes, and the clue is what cowboys say, which is my favourite one I think I've ever done. I don't know why. I just
got that one.
I think it was just really satisfying to clock. All right. Number 13 is a term I only recently learned, which is power cycle. Do you know what that is, Theo?
I would hazard a guess that it means the cycling of power.
Yeah.
would you call me crazy to suggest something like that? Would you call me mad, Adam? Would you? I think it means something to do with the circulation of power.
You're absolutely right, Theo. You're bang on.
Look, I'm just a simple boy from Reading, Berkshire.
I'm no big time fancy city lawyer.
Yeah.
It's when you turn something off and back on again to get it to work. That's called a power cycle. Mm-hmm. So, if you turn your computer off and back on and then it works again, you've done a power cycle. I just thought it was a nice term. And the clue is what my career is doing. So power cycle, and the clue is what my career is doing.
I got that.
And 14 is an ounce of respect. Don't have the an, it's just ounce of respect. And the clue is in over your head. So an ounce of respect, and the clue is in over your head. And number 15, the double parter, is down on your luck as the rhyme, and the clues are fictional character and popular song brackets S, because there's about 3 songs with the same name. Not covers, they've just got the same name. Looking from Theo's stuff here, yeah. Apart from the first one, these are all correct.
Some of them. Oh yeah. The first one I literally sent.
Oh, you put it in before
you sent the clue.
Yeah, you smashed it. There, all the others are bang on. This has been really nice. I've really enjoyed this. It's been the first time in a couple of weeks that we've caught up anyway, because you've been busy. So this has been really nice. I think depending on the numbers, because the numbers never lie, we'll see if we should do another one. If it gets more than 100 views, then bang. If not, then I might cut you from just friendship circle.
We'll just
generally.
do one off air, but but pretend that the podcast went out.
All right, yeah,
mate. Thanks so much for having me, man. This is get me on again. We'll just keep chatting like this, and hopefully people will like it.
This might be something separate. Maybe this is something we should start doing by ourselves. We'll let the people decide. If you'd like Theo to come back for another episode, let us know. This is that's putting quite a bit of pressure on you. If I don't get any now, no. If you'd like to see us do something like this, like more regularly, then let us know, and we'll do something like this. Anyway, thank you very much for coming on, mate. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, and I love you dearly.
Love you very much.